In other news we're tracking for you this Friday, well, Cabinet has announced a task team to look into corruption in all government departments since the national disaster was declared. One department that has been particularly mired in controversy and corruption allegations is the South African Social Security Agency, that's SASSA. Now, these allegations range from intermittent distribution of food parcels to the creation of fictitious grant recipients, but the agency says its anti-fraud strategy is now starting to bear fruit. Let's unpack this story now. We're joined by Tsotsie Memela, who is CEO of SASSA. Thanks very much for your time this morning. And, it's enough to talk about corruption when it comes to fraudulent activities happening with grant payments as it pertains to the public. But for your organization, Tsotsie, it's come within SASSA. I'm talking about just on Monday, the regional court in the Eastern Cape sentencing a couple to 8 years for fraud amounting to over 1.2 million rand, and at least one member of that couple was an employee of SASSA.
Good morning to the viewers. We over the years have been plagued internally and externally, but by not only their employees, but their employees working together with a number of syndicates outside the organization to hack the system, but also to create a number of fictitious accounts to defraud government. This is work that we've been working with over the years, and what we found was it became much easier when we started working with a number of law enforcement agencies, because what we found was on our own we couldn't actually prosecute, but again, even with the with the law enforcement agencies, they couldn't prosecute without working together with us, so that we could make sure that we get this we get the culprits behind bars. Over the past 18 months, we've been working together with law enforcement agencies in Eastern Cape, in KZN, and in Mpumalanga, and this is the reason why we're beginning to see opportunities for us to actually get these people behind bars.
So you're saying as SASSA that you are winning the war against corruption within the organization. And are we to take the number of arrests? I'm looking at another case, 23 suspects appearing in the regional court in Nelspruit, and that's one of the issues you've just mentioned to us, using the identity documents of members of the public to then register these fraudulent grants. Are you saying the fact that these cases are landing up in court, arrests are being made, jail terms are being handed out, means that SASSA is winning the war, or is this a reflection of something that's much deeper and perhaps many other cases that are not being prosecuted?
I think the cases are quite a number, because like I said, this dates back from 2016, where we started a lot of investigations, and many of them are coming through now. And again, they're coming through because we're working with the law enforcement agencies, but also we've put in a number of strategies whereby not only are we looking at controls, but we're looking at ensuring that our system is lack of fraud, that we update the system to make sure that we have new versions of systems, so that even our employees don't find it easier to actually work together with people from outside for them to access the system and defraud a government. And the other key thing that we're looking at, we're working together with the minister to make sure that the issue of fraud does not only become a situation whereby even if you are a member of the public, that you can only pay the money back, but that it becomes a criminal offense, because it means you're defrauding people that actually need this money.
Absolutely, stealing from the poor. So Tsotsie, you're telling us that the cases we're seeing now that are landing up in court and that are being prosecuted, that some of these cases are from 2016, and that is the amount of time it's taking us to investigate and to prosecute these kinds of cases?
And again, some of them date back from 2016, 27, and it's again because you need to make sure that by the time you take people to court, you have done all the investigations together with the law enforcement agencies to make sure that you will win actually when you get it to court.
Yeah. So tell us about how difficult it is as SASSA when it comes to issues of fraudulent grants in particular. How difficult is that to investigate, just given the amount of grant recipients we have on the system? How do we know that an application is fraudulent?
I think that an application can only become a fraudulent application either if, because we work with a number of processes. One, we need to make sure that the person that whose application we approve is a person whose ID document is an appropriate document. So it's not on our own or working on our own, but making sure that the whole process within government system is actually watertight in terms of making sure that this does not happen. What we've seen is with people now using the small IDs, those are actually very difficult to defraud, unlike the green barcode-coded IDs that were used in the past. And hence, it becomes very important for us as different government agencies to make sure that our data is integrated so that we can try as much as we can to make sure that we reduce this. But the other issue is that because cybercrime has become very sophisticated, it therefore means that we need to also continue to improve our systems to make sure that we can detect many of these instances early enough so that we don't leave our systems to fraud. But the other key issue that we need to address is more in terms of cross-border people that may come and interfere with our system and get and access grants when they don't qualify. And we found it interesting now with COVID that many people that we've identified that have not come for their grants in the border areas, it presupposes that those are people that may be using IDs of South Africa but also belong to other countries. And we've already flagged this, and we're beginning to investigate how to put closure in terms of that leakage, because at the end of the day, it becomes resources of government that are going to places where they should not go to.
Tsotsie, I imagine you must be working quite closely with community leaders, because they would be the ones that would have a real sense of what's happening in those small communities around the country.
We are working with particularly the traditional leaders, because in many instances they are the ones that are close to the communities and they understand as to who are the people that are part of their communities and who are not. But the most important thing is for us also as South Africans to understand that once we enable these kinds of crimes, we're actually robbing those people that are poor, that should be accessing government money, and we allow those people to end up having addresses in South Africa when they are not bona fide citizens of South Africa.
Absolutely. Well, thanks very much for your time this morning on the AM Report. That's Tsotsie Memela. She is the CEO of SASSA, and there is this anti-corruption hotline that you can call, that members of the public can call to blow the whistle. It is 0800 434373. Tsotsie Memela, thanks very much for your time.